Alrighty, so let's start off. Welcome everyone to the tips and tricks session for VMware Cloud and AWS. Today we're going to talk about how to improve availability in the cloud with VMware Cloud and AWS. My name is Rick Hoffman. I'm a Cloud Customer Success Architect for VMware, and with me I have my teammate and colleague and friend Fabio. Hi, Fabio.
Hey folks, Fabio Reale, Senior Cloud Success Architect. So working with Rick, friends, mates. So happy to be here to just talk with us, talk with you with tips and tricks about our VMware Cloud and AWS solution.
Perfect. Yeah, we appreciate your time today. And also if you're watching the recording, thanks for that. We know it's a quite busy time with all the security things happening at the moment. With that, I'd like to jump into the agenda. And just to let you know that we are also having a quick poll in advance. So if you see a poll coming up on your screen, we would love to have your answers on that. And yeah, to just let you know what we're going to talk about today is the AWS infrastructure, including the AWS global network, the networking options we have with VMware Cloud and AWS. We're going to talk about something very new, which is the opportunity to interconnect your transit gateway intra-region with your SCDC. We're talking about stretched clusters. We're touching on the DRS and EDRS options, about very briefly some storage policies, and just highlighting it here in the next session in January, on the 11th, I believe it is. We are going to talk about vSAN in VMC, and we're going to elaborate on DRS and storage policies in more detail. We're also touching on HCX today, as well as the VCDR offering we have and Site Recovery Manager. And I've just seen the other question coming in. Right. And while we're on it, if you have any questions or any remarks and you want to reach out, please use the Q&A function or the chat feature. We're here to help. And if we can't answer your questions right on the spot, don't worry, we will get back to you and let you know after the session. Also, we will provide you the slides once we've done the session, so it will be sent to you when you're registered for it. Yeah. So that's perfect. And we've just finished off question 2. And I believe there's one more question coming up for you, if I'm not mistaken. There we are. And let's just wait for the poll to come through. And then we'll jump into the next slide. Awesome, perfect. Right. So thank you for that. So we're touching again on VMware Cloud and AWS, like in the previous webinars, and this is all we are going to talk about today, including some of the add-ons. Just to re-highlight again that VMware Cloud and AWS is running on AWS bare metal and the entire AWS infrastructure, including the AWS network. You can get it through either VMware, through partners, through AWS directly. And you can basically run almost any workload you have on premises on it. And yeah, it is running on the robust infrastructure of AWS. And one thing which is very important, which customers are asking us is, and since we're talking availability today, is, okay, on premises, you have one rack with all my nodes in it, and I have one vSAN cluster. And in VMware Cloud and AWS, how are you doing that? And in AWS, we are actually using a placement method so that we are distributing nodes across several racks so that it's not all in one rack, which is probably the most important thing to know when it comes to availability. This is just for the racks, and this is not AZs. So this is a different construct. That would be the stretch cluster, and we're going to touch on that in just a moment. Since you can just grow while you go, you only need to start off with a few nodes. And let's say you have an event on premises and you need to scale out rapidly, you can just add more nodes as you go. And since it only takes, when you have all the prereqs met in advance, it takes only about 2 hours to have a full SDDC running in the cloud. So let's say you have an event on premises where you need to have some extra capacity, you can just instantiate a new class, a new environment, a new SDDC in just about 2 hours roughly. For lifecycle management, for example, this is all taken care of by VMware. So it's fully operation by VMware, and you don't need to worry about any patching or any vulnerability mitigation. Like over the weekend, you've probably heard that there has been a big issue, and this has been addressed straight away by the VMware team and has been mitigated right away. So again, something you don't need to worry about in terms of availability for your environments. In the backend, we have some very high-skilled SRE teams for any technical issues, like when you experience anything in your environment or you need assistance, you can reach out to us through chat, and the SRE team will look into it. And also, we're doing some proactive scanning for any things coming up, because again, this is a fully managed solution, so VMware is looking into that. And obviously, with that concept of the AWS infrastructure, you have the opportunity to leverage the high availability. Depending on your setup, like when you're using stretch clusters, you have prevention for region losses, and you also have data loss prevention systems. Since we're leveraging vSAN, and because of the storage policies you can use, you have redundancy for your actual data. All righty, going to the next slide. So there's plenty of networking options to get connected to your VMC environment. So most likely, the best way to achieve it is through Direct Connect, which is a native service from AWS, which basically just creates a circuit between your on-premises environment and the cloud. It is the fastest and probably most reliable option. But if you just need to get into the cloud quickly and you don't want to have the additional cost for Direct Connect, then obviously there's plenty of options. You can use the layer 2 VPN connection, for example, with a NSX. You can utilize standard L3 VPNs, and you can leverage BGP. But in addition, you can also have HCX extensions so that you can connect your on-premises environment through the HCX solution with the cloud, and you can also extend your layer 2 networks into it. Again, for availability, this gives you plenty of options. So to set up, let's say, redundancy in the cloud for some servers and systems where you just need redundancy and you don't have the capacity on premises. All right. Fabio, how about yourself? Keen to talk about Direct Connect?
Yeah, absolutely, folks. So Direct Connect, it's one of the most reliable way to connect to your SDDC. So it's just a low latency, high speed connectivity. So that will just allow you to create a link from your on-prem center to your SDDC. So that's delivered by AWS, but will allow you to access directly to your SDDC and to consume and use all the resources really without any overlay like a VPN. So let me say that is our preferred way to access the SDDC. That's the best way to consume all the SDDC and the way that we generally suggest to you. So just a note, it's not delivered by VMware. You have to speak with AWS, you have to speak with your carrier and ensure that you are fully covered by that. Then you have to just configure a private VIF or a public VIF just to reach your data center, and looking just to the networking, you could use and leverage the BGP, so you will be able to announce your just on-prem subnet to the SDDC and just be able to reach everything in a single pane of glass. So that's probably the best way to reach the SDDC. So that's our suggestion. So you can just move forward.
So yeah, you go ahead. Sorry.
Like me. So root-based VPN, again, if you don't have a direct connect, you can always reach your SDDC using a VPN. So that's just another way to reach your SDDC. With the root-based VPN, you can leverage the BGP, so you can just establish connectivity, announce all the route, learn all the routes from your SDDC. Again, you got some limitation because there are limited bandwidth on the VPN, so you can use multiple tunnel and just play with the ECMP just configuration. That will help you have more bandwidth. It's still something that goes over internet, so more latencies, less speed, but still a reliable way to just reach your SDDC. Okay, so just forward. Okay.
Yep. So, and we also have the option to use policy-based IPsec VPN. Obviously, we would always prefer route-based over policy if you can't go with direct connect. It is obviously very simple to configure, but you have to manually add every network. And this can be quite tedious. Also, in case you're mixing and matching different kinds of connectivity, you need to make sure that it's that you have your routing in place. And it's, again, a very manual task and needs to be taken care of. So it is there, you can leverage it, but recommendation is to go direct connect. If that's not possible, go through route-based. However, with having that said, we know direct connect can be quite expensive. And we know that our main customers, like the bigger customers, have multiple direct connect circuits, and they can leverage more than one direct connect link. But some customers cannot. And when you only have one direct connect link available, then obviously, if that goes down, you won't be able to reach your SDDC. And for that reason, we have the option to use a VPN as a backup to direct connect. So usually your direct connect link is the most preferred path. However, if that goes down for whatever reason, you can have VPN in place to get your connection into the SDDC. Right. In terms of storage availability, we have several options to make your data available within the cloud. I'm just showing you here the managed storage policies, which are fully managed by VMware. Why are they managed, and why would it make sense to use those? Let's just think you're kicking off with 3-node SDDC, and eventually you're in need of more nodes for whatever reason, like storage, like CPU constraints or whatever. So you're scaling your SDDC. And the managed policy will then take care of your failures to tolerate in your SDDC. So depending on the nodes, it will change the storage policy per that VM where the storage policy is attached. This goes both ways. If you scale out, it will change the policy, same as when you scale in, or you need to remove nodes. And we also have the SLA compliance thing I'd like to highlight here. You need to have a certain failure to tolerate option set for your VMs to be eligible for in case there's anything happening in your SDDC, and you need to recover, let's say, from a failure. If you're only using, let's say, failures to tolerate 1 in a large cluster, it might be that your data has been lost if there's a case of a node failure or a disk failure. So we need to prevent that. And for that reason, it makes sense to at least have the managed one. You can always go above and beyond and have more failures to tolerate set per your policy or per VM. However, that will increase storage, and therefore you would need more nodes. Right, Fabio, would you like to talk about stretch clusters?
Yep, so stretch cluster is just the best way if you need any way to just have a business continuity. So like it was done in the past on your SDDC on-prem, so on your just the classic campus configuration where you got half data center in one building and another half in another building. Structured cluster is something similar. So we are just splitting your SDDC across two different capability zones. So there are different building, different data center, but everything is managed on a single pane of glass. So you will have a single vCenter, single NSX that will help you that in case of there will be an availability zone failure, everything will be failed over on another just availability zone. So it will be just a power cycle. So the VMs will be shut down and rebooted on the other side. And it's just a matter of a few seconds and your workloads will continue to work. So it's just the best way to achieve the business continuity inside VMC on AWS. Keep in mind that this is a choice that you must do at the time of the deployment. So when you're deploying an SDDC, you have to choose if that will be a stretched cluster or not, and that cannot be changed after. So if you're deploying a stretched cluster, so all the cluster on your SDDC will be stretched. You cannot just mix and match. So all the new cluster will be stretched. So just think about that at the beginning, because there is no way to change that choice. In that case, you will need to deploy another SDDC and migrate all the workloads. Out of that, this is the best way to just have the most resilient configuration inside VMC and AWS. So for everything that is business critical, that's the way to move forward.
Yep, that's perfect.
So
and just to add to that, yep, go ahead.
Yeah, go mate.
So with stretch cluster, there's as Pavi already mentioned, we have this isolate failure domains within AWS to minimize any impact when there is an outage or anything happening to one AZ. What's also interesting is to see that we have reduced management traffic going across. And also we have the vSAN read locality. So let's say you have a VM running on site A or an AZ1 and the data would reside in AZ2. We were trying to accommodate that these are not cross-talking too much to have less communication between the AZs. What's also interesting is that up to, I believe it's 10 petabyte, the data in between the AZs is now free of charge and included into the service. So there's nothing to worry about when it comes to any data you need to sync between those AZs. This obviously doesn't come into play when you're going into the cloud or out of the SDDC, but in between the AZs in your SDDC, then there's no further charges. All right, we've already touched briefly on that. In case you need to scale out or scale in, obviously we have DRS on premises since quite a few years, but in VMware Cloud and AWS, we have Elastic DRS, and you can set it to different settings. And the interesting bit is that it can be fully automated. So if we are running into storage constraints, for example, we will add nodes to it. But since we're talking availability, we have customers who have a very small footprint today with, let's say, 3 nodes or even with a 2-node cluster, but they are keeping it running for any potential impact they may see on premises. And for that, they may need to add more nodes in a very faster time. And for that, we now have something called rapid scale out. So when you have this configured and you need to have more nodes in your SDDC, it would basically add up to the maximum of 60 nodes in one go. So that's pretty handy and adds a lot of nodes if you need them.
Yeah, just a note, mate, that something interesting is that just a few weeks ago, we have changed our default storage policy. So a lot of you know that in the past, there was a requirement to have at least 25% of space free inside the cluster. Now we have moved to only 20%. So now you can use up to the 80% of the storage of your cluster. And so it's required only to have 20% free just for any maintenance reason and just for the SLA compliance and whatever. So EDRS will kick in a new host only when you cross that line. So that's something new and more space to use for you.
That's perfect. Thanks for bringing this up. I almost forgot. All right. So we're also jumping now back a little because this is brand new and just fresh off the press, with grouping connectivities to the transit VPC, and in addition, the intra-region peering with a transit gateway. So we have this since, I believe, version 1.12, where you have a transit VPC to interconnect SDDCs. Obviously, this is in the same region and they need to be in the same org, but you can then interconnect your existing SDDCs. And as you can see here, there's also the concept of the VMware Transit Connect Gateway, or VMware Transit Connect, we call it. This comes with extra cost, but you can interconnect plenty SDDCs and have a larger design into the future. But what is more interesting, based on this old topology, when quite a few customers were asking, hey, can we get an even more resilient infrastructure, is intra-region peering. And I'm just skipping this slide for the moment, because the more interesting one is this one. So what that means is that you probably have quite a few VPCs within AWS natively already. And what this helps with is that you can directly attach your SDDCs to your AWS TGW. Quite a few customers were asking for this. And in the past, you were able to interconnect your SDDC already straight into your TGW using VPNs. But as Fabio already mentioned earlier, we have the constraints with bandwidth limitations. So with this concept, we're increasing the bandwidth which you can use, and it's way faster because it's using the backend of AWS, and there's no need to have that through VPN attachments as such. Anything to add, Fabio, from your end?
Yeah, I think that is probably the most reliable way just to consume all the AWS services. So we got actually a lot of examples from our customer that are using that. So this is probably in the future will be just our reference architecture. So we're using that already with the transit VPC, now with the TGW. I think that is just a game changer. So yeah, absolutely. That's great news. And one of the things that is really good is that all of you, if you are already using VMC and AWS, don't have to wait for the latest update. So if you got just any business need to use this kind of connectivity, just reach us. So that is just available also for the customers that are not on the latest version. So we can work with you. So the CS will help you to get that feature enabled. So just reach us, reach your CSA, your CSM, and we will help you to just get that feature enabled on your SDDC.
And even if you don't have customer success, either a customer success manager or a customer success architect, you can just reach out through chat, and then you can just say, hey, we want to have this feature enabled, and they will do that for you as well. So in case you don't have customer success, just to add to it. Perfect. Thanks, Fabio. Right, just conscious of time. We still have a few slides to go through. If you don't mind, you can stick around for longer. That's perfectly fine with us. Again, if you have any questions in between or anything you want to, look deeper into, then please reach out through chat or Q&A. That's perfectly fine with us. Right. Again, we touched on HDX in a previous session. However, in terms of availability, it is really an option and a solution you should consider, because it just helps you getting your workload from on-premises into the VMC infrastructure if needed. And you can also leverage HDX to get your data, let's say, from a different provider or from a different environment, and you can just consolidate it into the cloud. And what's also interesting is that you can fan in from several locations into one SDDC. So let's say you have an on-premises environment in Germany where I'm located, and another one in Italy, and you need to have, or you want to have redundancy, and you're planning on having a third location, let's say in Spain, then you can just leverage HDX and you can fan in from the Germany location and Italy location into the Spanish location utilizing HDX. We've also mentioned that with HDX, you can extend your networks from on-premises into the cloud. And what's also interesting is that you can do cloud-to-cloud migrations. So when you already have an SDDC and you want to interconnect it with another new SDDC maybe, or in between different locations, then you can also leverage hybrid HCX for that. And we do that through the Hybrid Connect. Obviously, you can also do build migrations, cold migrations into the cloud. So the easiest way for our customers usually is that they are planning ahead. But in the case of an emergency, for example, they can move live VMs from on-premises into the cloud or back on-premises if so needed. So that's also an option. Right.
Yeah, just a quick note, mate, on HCX. So a lot of you know that in the past for the extended network, our suggestion was that for the production workload to use NSX with the L2 extension. So that is now changed. So our suggestion, the suggestion from our networking business unit is just to use HCX, because now with the latest version, it's just the best way and the most reliable way to use the network extension. So if in the past there were several just constraints and several asks to do not use HCX as a production system, so not just for the migration, but also for the long-term solution, now several things are changed with the latest version of HCX. So we are now supporting HCX as a long-term solution. So feel free to use that if it's needed. Remember, we will always suggest use the network extension only if it's needed, but use HCX also for the long-term solution. So this is a note.
Yep, perfect. Right. So I believe it was this year we introduced VCDR, or VMware Cloud Disaster Recovery, for VMware Cloud and AWS. So basically, this is an on-demand service you can leverage, where you can have sort of a standby, and in case of an emergency, you can just instantiate a full SDDC on the go, or you can also use an existing SDDC, if you so have, to have your VMs powered on in the SDDC. And it is replicating constantly. It is a very fast and reliable service, which is there. It is easy to use because it is directly integrating into your on-premises environment. You have a pretty straightforward interface for it, where you can set up all the things you need. As I was saying, it is an on-demand service, and you can instantly, power on your VMs. For example, when it comes down to ransomware, this would be an option when you know that you have a good replica of your data and you were hit with something on premises. You can then recover from it pretty fast and easily into the cloud. This is the rough overview. Fabio, anything you'd like to add? You're on mute, buddy.
Yeah, sorry. I think that that's fine. So absolutely, that's.
Yeah. So we're at half past. We still have a few more slides to go. So if you want to stick around again, please stay. We're happy to have you. I'm just building the slide out. Oh, sorry, that was that. Probably you all know SRM, the Site Recovery Manager for on-premise environments. And what you can also leverage is VMC as a target for your SRM replicas. Obviously, this also gives you the benefits, or some of the benefits I was highlighting previously. However, it will also utilize vSphere replication to get your data into the recovery side. However, with this kind of setup, you would need already an existing SDDC, whereas with VCDR, we showed earlier, you don't need to have an SDDC up and running already. So basically, if you're already using the cloud and you're using it as a protection site, and you want to constantly replicate your data into the SDDC, then SRM is one option, and it's an add-on which has an additional cost to it, or you can leverage VCDR, which also has a cost, obviously, but you have a lower footprint because you don't need to have an SDDC up and running all the time if you're going for that option. And I can see there were quite a few questions and that Fabio was answering.
Yep, I took that.
Okay, perfect. Anything else we should add to SRM from your perspective, Fabio?
No, I think that's good, mate. So there will be another session, I think, on that. So yeah.
Yeah, we will have some more DR and SRM topics in the future. As said, there will be one in January talking about vSAN, storage policies and all the likes. All right, I don't see right now any further questions. So, but if you have any questions, please drop us your questions in chat. You can reach out to us later. There will be our contact details in the slide. And as always, we do value your feedback. Is there any topic you'd like to cover in more depth? Something we haven't touched on in previous sessions? Or is there a topic you'd like to hear more about in more length, or maybe even an individual session? That could also be possible. You can again reach out through chat, Q&A, or directly via email to us or the team. Right, just checking if there's any additional questions.
If anyone got any questions, so we got time, so we can stay here just to answer a few more questions. So don't worry about the time. So Rick and me will be able to stay a little bit more time.
All righty, so we have one in the Q&A.
Yeah, there is Andrew.
Is that the one you have already covered?
Yeah, I don't know if Andrew got any other questions, so just.
Okay, so the question is what the best way to set up communication from the SDDC VMC via Transit Connect to assisting the VPC to transit out or AWS NAT gateways to the internet rather than via VMware's AWS account. So this is talking about the
the traffic flow. Just so as I answered, so while using the VTGW, so the Transit Connect, you can add custom routes to send out the traffic from your SDDC to any connected TGW or just a security or transit VPC. So that will allow you to send everything to the AWS side. So I got a customer that is actually using a security VPC to just monitoring all the traffic that is flowing in and out from the SDDC. So they are publishing services through the native AWS services. So with that kind of custom routes, you will be allowed to send out everything on the VTGW, and then using a TGW native one or the security VPC, you can play with multiple services. So that's the easiest way. So you cannot create custom routes on NSX, but you can create that on the Transit Connect. So, and that got the priority over all the other routes.
Yep, that's perfect. Does this answer your question, Andrew?
We hope so.
We hope so. Oh, yeah, so that's perfect. Thanks for confirming, Andrew. Who's got our next question? You can see that the poll is also still going, so we'd appreciate your feedback. So in case somebody's still typing, I just show you our last slide, or the second last actually. So you can always find additional resources in the Cloud Tech Zone, or in the customer success community. So I can highly encourage you to reach out to us in there, or obviously on the homepage. And this is how you can reach Fabio and myself. If you have any additional questions, which we haven't covered during the session, or if you have anything else coming up, or again, if you have any ideas or any thoughts about things you would like to see in the future, please let us know as well. We're happy to discuss that and to come up with some time to present that to you. All righty. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate your feedback. Okay, so with that, we will leave the session open for another 5 minutes. So if there's anything you come up with or you're still typing, then please feel free. We will monitor the chat. I will just stop sharing and go mute and stop my video, but we will be here for another roughly 5 minutes. So if there's anything else you'd like to know, please reach out. And thank you, Fabio, for being with me today again. Appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. Thanks everyone for joining.
And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everyone.